Welcome to the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast, helping you step more fully into your feminine, unapologetic authenticity. I'm your host, Janine McKinnon, confidence and sexual empowerment coach, who went from the trenches of 2 kids under 2 years old, feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, disconnected, and resentful, to creating a life I'm obsessed with, full of passion, presence, pleasure, and playfulness. I love myself, I love my marriage, I love my kids, and I love my life. And I want to help you feel the same level of love and fulfillment in your life. Here you can find inspiration and tools taken from my one-on-one coaching sessions and group experiences to support you in your journey. We'll cover things like societal conditioning, inner child healing, women's empowerment, and tantric and Taoist principles to inspire you to live a life you love while embodying your feminine, unapologetic authenticity, and in doing so, creating a ripple effect throughout your life, your family, and everyone you interact with. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful we're able to connect in this way, and I can't wait to dig into the contents of this episode with you. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Unapologetic Stories on the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast. Today I am here with Chloé Morgan, entertainer and international DJ, to really talk about overcoming your struggles and trauma, like the real nitty-gritty shit that so many of us deal with, and being able to move through that, to face that head on, and to really lean into becoming your best self. And we are both a part of the 262 Women's Project. I actually have the book here behind me of Mission Accepted 262 Entrepreneurs, Creatives, and Media. And when I was on my way from Victoria to Vancouver for the book launch party, I tuned into your podcast episode with Deb Drummond, and I really loved hearing how open you were about your whole journey. And I really appreciated just the rawness and how authentically you showed up sharing about that. So if you're open, I would love it if you could share a bit about your journey. Right now, you are this international DJ, and you did have quite the success early on, but it's been a journey full of ups and downs and all of these different things that have been thrown at you. So I love it if you are open to just jumping right in and telling us about your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm from the UK originally. I was born in London. I grew up in Essex, Chelmsford, Essex. And I moved back to London when I was 16. I got a scholarship into a stage college up in London, and absolutely loved it. I loved being there and everything. But I was battling with an eating disorder at the time. So backtracking a little bit, growing up, I've been on the stage since I was about 4 or 5. And that's all I've kind of really ever known. I was training, while I was going to school, I was also training in the arts outside of school as well. So I was doing like singing, dancing, piano lessons, violin lessons, acting. So I was definitely being sort of prepped for my future. And then when I got into this stage school, it was definitely like a huge dream that I had accomplished, just even like getting a scholarship into this school. So, but I was having obviously some troubles with my personal life. And it kind of stemmed from like my real father left when I was 2 years old. I've never seen him since. And I had an uncle who stepped in, who was actually his uncle, and he became like a father figure to me. And I saw him every single day of my life, and he would pay for all of my dance classes and singing classes, all of it. He used to take me up to London every weekend, and we were just like, we lived in each other's pockets. Like, let's just say that. Like, we were so close. He'd come on all of our family holidays. And so that relationship was like very like rock sturdy. And my mum remarried as well, and she the man that she married adopted my brother, and I had had two more siblings, a brother and a sister, with my mom. And then he eventually left too, and didn't really see me and my brother, but continued to see his children he had with my mom. And so that was quite heartbreaking. And then at the same time, I was also being sexually abused by a different uncle. And so there was a lot of like trauma that I was dealing with, and I was rebelling at school and all these different things. And I think eventually it was just like something that I could control was this eating disorder. Then when I hit, it was like 17, I think 17 or 18, basically I found my uncle, he had a brain hemorrhage, and I found him in his flat. And kind of from that point, like my life sort of just like went black, and it was like, and I just got so sick with this disorder, and like my hair was drying out, my skin was going gray, and I was like covering up, right? Because you learn to be a master of, the art of covering up. And I was going to the stage school at the time, and I was really, really low. I remember being in London. My mum said to me, there's this audition that you should go for, and it could change your life. And I was like, Mum, it's for a girl group. I don't want to be in a girl group. I'm a solo artist. And I knew from a very, very young age, just backtracking a little bit, that I was always going to be a solo artist. I've always known what I was going to be. I've always known. And I just didn't know the kind of the roads that would kind of like happen in between, right? Like when life actually happens. So, so my mom had told me about this audition, and she'd actually put me forward for it. And I was like, so I went for it, and I ended up getting through, and I got through to the final. And my life literally like changed overnight, because it was one of these big TV shows where you became famous overnight, basically. And so I went from like being in stage school to then like skipping my last year of college and being on TV, performing live. And I was really suffering still with the eating disorder, because it was, even though I was like from from real low to a real high, it was still something that was controlling me. It was still something that was going on in the background, and I would mask it with like being, people would think that I was like overly confident, but it was just like a masquerade of like me trying to cover up for the pain that was really going on in the inside of me, that I just didn't know, even I didn't have the tools. I didn't know how to deal with it. And so that then after I didn't get into the final group, which became Girls Aloud. You might have heard of them. But I got signed to Warner Brothers straight after the show as part of the girl group Clea. And so we ended up, making a full album, touring the UK, and I'm still got this problem going on, which was causing problems in the band. And then at the same time, we got jealousy going on in the band, and like the ones that didn't get into the group, and just all the stuff that we had to deal with. And, I was being pushed forward to kind of be like the lead of the group, but the girls were having a hard time with that. There was no real like mentorship. There was no like real like strong manager that was like, hey, this person's going to be in this position, this person. That everybody wanted to be top dog. And that's never work out. Do you know what I mean? Those things never work out when you don't know your role. You know what I mean? It's so important in any type of work situation to understand your strengths and to know your role that you play.
Absolutely.
And so there was all of that dynamic going on. And then I eventually kind of just felt like I was bullied out of the group, basically. And I was so depressed. I was so low. I was so struggling with this eating disorder. Now, we shot our first music video in Vancouver, Canada, and I met my ex on set. So that was kind of like an out for me, because he was being such a great support to me while all of this was going on. And he was showing me love when nobody was showing me love. And for me, I was like, I just wanted to be with the person who loved me, So I ended up leaving the group. Eventually I came out to Canada and basically restarted my life out here. And I had to kind of restart everything from scratch. I had to get a normal job. And what was really difficult for me in like that first couple of years of leaving the band was like, it was so difficult to get a job in the UK because people knew who I was. And it was so traumatic, even that, like having to deal with like the disappointment and like feeling like you had to explain yourself of like why this didn't work out and why you're back serving tables or like whatever, right? And so I was just like trying to just grab any job that wasn't like, in some type of building where people come see me. It was just, I was working on the streets, doing like promotions, all kinds of stuff to like, and still people recognize me like even there. So it was just like, I gotta get away from this country. And so I left, restarted my life. I ended up getting married to the person that I'd met, but it didn't work out. Now, within that time, my father passed away. The second father, and him and I sort of reconciled just before he passed. And he had cancer. That's what he passed of. And I remember going back to the UK to see him and looking at him, and all the while I'm like trying to work on my career. I'm still like, at home, like while I'm like doing these, working in a restaurant, working at a hair salon, wherever, right? I'm coming home and I'm writing music, and I'm still living my craft, even though I wasn't fully living it and I wasn't being paid to do that, right? So I'd like worked on like different like EPs and music and stuff like that, and then came back to the UK. My father was passing, and I just remember looking at him, and I still had the eating disorder because actually, sorry, let me backtrack. Sorry, I should just jump back because this won't make sense otherwise. So when I left the group, just before I came to Canada, I basically gave my life back to the Lord at that time. I'd kind of come to know the Lord when I was about 16. And, I was like, I love God, but I still want to live my own life. And, so I was just not ready to live and walk with the Lord at that time. But then this time around, I was a broken mess. Like I was like, I've got this terrible eating disorder. I remember my best friend had the eating disorder too, but she had been delivered of this disorder. So I was like, how did you do it? And she was like, well, Jesus set me free. And I was like, well, I want to know who this Jesus is, that like, if he's doing it for you, he can do it for me. So I basically started going to church again. I got baptized at that time. And then I came over to Canada, and then we got married, and, I was just trying to rush the process. I still had not been healed of all the stuff that I was going through. So coming back to my dad. So when I came back to the UK, I looked at him and saw him and thought, he can't help what's happening to him. I can help what's happening to me. Like he was like skin and bone. And I'd seen it on like TV, like people being that thin in the flesh, but I'd never seen it in the flesh myself. So when I actually saw it, I just thought, because I was like super underweight too. And I just was like, like I can change this because I'm slowly killing myself, and just really like kind of understanding why am I doing this? What is it? So I already started doing the healing journey. I still wasn't, at a level where I was like free. And so I came back to Canada. I remember getting prayed for, and I just remember like I'd spent over a decade of my life with this eating disorder, and I was like getting better as time was going on, but I wasn't fully set free. It was always in the background. You know what I mean? It was always like, I'll pull this out when I need it. But it was getting better, but it was still there. And I just remember like always losing my voice as well. And it was really frustrating me because I was like, I'm a singer. I shouldn't be losing my voice all the time. So I remember going up for prayer, and the pastor prayed for me, and I basically got set free of this eating disorder, but he was praying for my voice. He was praying for healing and whatever. But in that time, I actually was being set free from the eating disorder, and I didn't know it until as days were passing. And I was just like, I didn't have a desire for it Like the desire just went. And so as I was beginning to overcome that, I started becoming stronger and like a different person. And my husband and I just sort of like ended up dispersing, there were other things going on, but I won't get into it. But it was just because I do really respect him, and it was very amicable, like ending, and there wasn't any drama or anything. I mean, as much as possible, right? Like there's always pain with divorce. Like
Yeah.
I would never recommend it. I would never recommend divorce unless like it's, cheating, abuse, those kind of grounds. Like I would never recommend that. So anyways, so we sort of ended up finishing, and it was, I will definitely say it was more my fault than his. So I fully take that responsibility, but also through it. You know what I mean? I've forgiven myself. I've made peace with it. I'm way past that point now. But it was a really good lesson for me to be able to like look back and understand like what went wrong, and also what can I do better the next time, right? So everything is a lesson. And so, so then after that, like, because I hadn't dealt with the deep inner trauma and pain of all the stuff that I'd gone through, I started turning to drugs. And then I ended up, as I was like leaving my husband, I was like doing about 5 different jobs and, moving from place to place. I was becoming a complete hobo. Like I was literally like a traveling gypsy, like from couch to couch. And that went on for like, a little while, and I kind of got settled a little bit. I went to Los Angeles, saved up like $10,000, and I was like, I'm going to go for my dream now. Went out to Los Angeles, as high as a kite and all of that, and just about making it through with everything, and just like living by the seat of our pants type of thing. And we were just, we were living really unhealthy, and like we ended up coming back to Vancouver, and we were just, we were using drugs, we were doing all kinds of things, that were just not healthy for you. But it all ended up basically in a complete disaster. And I ended up getting fired from a job, having to go back on the street, we were selling CDs on the street, like full on, and started booking shows, and we were running out of money, and things were getting stressful. And it was just like, I've got to go back to the UK. And so we got a flight, we got like enough money to get on a flight, go back to the UK. And yeah, by the time I got there, it was really, really bad. I came back to the UK, and I was like even frightened that I wasn't even going to get home, because of just like, I've been sort of like I was in a deserted airport and nobody was really there. And I felt so like overwhelmed. My sister had been nearly human trafficked like a couple of months or a month, I think, prior to all this thing happening in Paris. So there was just so much going on where I was under so much fear. And I was like, growing up, I was like a fearless child. I was very fearless, and like nothing like would, intimidate me. And I just became this like fragment of myself. Like I was so fearful. I just didn't know who I was anymore. I almost lost my soul. Like that's the only way I can put it. I come back to the UK. I wake up the next day, and it was just like a ton of bricks hit me. Like I have lost everything. I've lost my husband, my home that I was living in, everything. I've literally come back home with a suitcase full of clothes to my name. Like, and then I had like stuff everywhere. Like it was just like someone was looking after something over here in Los Angeles, and all that stuff got missing. It was just a disaster, right? It was a complete disaster. And I was just like, I just did not want to live. I was like, I am so over life. I'm so over everything right now that I just was like, it's probably better if I just die at this point. Like it, and I really was there. Like I was really, really there. And I ended up going up to London. So all of this was like around Christmas, like Christmas passed, and then it was New Year coming up, and I went up to London, and I was in a group of house, and I was like smoking a ton of. I was like awake and baked, like I could not live without smoking weed all day long. I was like, I need a hit, like yeah, someone give me it, like type of thing. It was just like wherever I could get it. And I went up to London, and I remember like being in a house full of like Christians. And basically I was sort of like smoking, and they were just like, okay, this girl is like, whatever's going on here, like this needs, like, we're not having this. Like seriously, I was manipulating and like, you know, using my powers, whatever, to like manipulate the whole environment, right? And so and I didn't know it, like I didn't even know I was doing that. It was like I was so like mentally trained to just work environments in just such unhealthy ways because of what the drugs had done, and you know, and just even the relationship had done to me, all of it. And basically what happened was the next day we prayed into the new year, and then the next day everybody sort of they were like, when I started kind of opening up a little bit about my story, everyone was like, can we pray for you, girl? Like this is something out of the Twilight Zone. So everybody
You're
laid hands on
you
me,
need
and
it.
I mean, I just thank God for that encounter, because it was an absolute encounter that happened at that moment. And I literally, like, everybody laid hands on me, prayed for me, and I was like shaking. Like I'd never felt the presence of God so strong, like come over me. I remember experiencing it certain points, but this was like, I felt like it, like some type of exorcism was happening. I was like, and yeah, it was crazy. And then, but from that day, I was like, I ended up like completely finishing the relationship, because we were still kind of like talking a little bit, but I was like, that's done. I'm moving forward with God, like solely. And I just kind of cut everything off. Like I stopped social media. Like I literally was like one track, like what? Because I was like, if I don't, I remember just being in a room as well. Like I was staying up in London for a bit, and I just remember like listening to all these different podcasts and like sermons and like whoever, right? I was listening to Joel Osteen a lot, and just crying, like writing notes and just constantly crying like all day long. And I just thought, like, if I don't lean into God at this point, I will die. Because I remember feeling like my heart felt like it's going to explode every day. Like it was like never felt such excruciating pain in my heart. Like I could understand now why people say you can die from a broken heart. I actually understand that now. I'm like, you actually can physically, like not just mentally, physically, you can actually die. And I was like, Lord, either you can strengthen my heart or I'm going to die in my sleep. Like I honestly thought I was going to either die in my sleep, or like I was going to try and end my life somehow. So it was going to be one of the two. It was like, you know, and basically in that first year, like, sorry, in the January of that year, so the first month, I was like, okay, I've got to do something with my career. Like I've got to do something with my life at this point. Because like we had this band that we were doing music, we were booking shows. Now I'm not doing anything. So what can I do? And my mum was like, she got out this magazine and she was like, look, Chloe, all the new superstars are DJs. And I was like, well, I kind of wanted to DJ, you know, for a while. And I remember my uncle, the one that passed away, who was like my father, he used to always, every time I'd go to his flat, he'd always be like, go put a record on, Chloe. So I would actually like put an actual record on, like with the needle and all of it. So it was almost like he sowed a seed into me. And I ended up learning to DJ in those first couple of months. And I started approaching bars and clubs. And I was like, hey, yeah, you know, I'm a DJ from Canada, like trying to give it all the swag. And they were like, oh, this girl looks so great. And then obviously when they started giving me opportunity, they were like, okay, either she's not been doing it that long or she's like really whack. But thankfully, I was given the opportunity to do a residency at a bar, and I just would go home every day and practice. I was like, because I could hear, I'm like, this needs to be better. This needs to sharpen up. And I would just constantly, I had this job where I was also selling solar panels. So I was going to people's houses and basically selling solar panels to them. And I was in such a broken mess that I would be crying on the way, like in my car to these people's homes. I would literally like listening to these like messages, like Joel Austin, like trying to build me up. And I'd be like crying. As soon as I got there, I was like wiping myself up. Hi, I'm here to sell you solar panels. And then I'd be like, okay, great. And I'd walk out and then start crying again as soon as I got in the car. I mean, I was literally just trying to hold it together, And so it was a mess. Like that first year was like full on, like really trying to seek a lot of like healing and restoration. And I was at everything you could possibly imagine. I was at Bible study, healing ministry, deliverance ministry, counseling, church, whatever you could think. I was there because I was like, if I don't, I'm going to die. Like that was it. And the only thing that God kept showing me was like, I couldn't see anything but me becoming a music artist still. That was the only thing I could see. So I thought, well, if I can see it, then it can still happen. Right. And anyway, so came to Canada actually during the summer of that year. And my career just started like naturally, like I was booking jobs and I thought, you know what, like this could be a really great place for me to come back and do my career here. So I was like, I need to go back to the UK. I need to commit to my healing because I'm still, smoking a bunch of weed. And I want to be clean. Like I just want to be teetotal at this point. Like I just, and I remember someone saying to me, like, most successful people, they are sober. So if you want to be really successful, it's probably best that you go on that journey. So I was like, I want to be really successful. So I just was like, that was it for me. It was like, I'm going to cut it out. So it didn't take me long, like when I made the decision, and I can tell you why it didn't take me long, because when you overcome an eating disorder that you've had for over a decade of your life, you can overcome anything. So
Absolutely.
I knew I had the strength. So I thought if I had the strength to do that, there's nothing that can stop me at this point. And so I ended up putting it down. And honestly, I've got to say, like, I'm not addicted now. I can walk in a path where I can say I'm not addicted to anything. Maybe I'm a little bit addicted to work, but I'm trying to get like a good balance going on. But honestly, like I think it's a better addiction to have that's positive rather than negative, right? But yeah, I'm very free when it comes to like eating. Like I'm teetotal type of person now. So yeah, I came back to Canada literally 1 year after I was prayed for. My career took off in Canada, and I've never worked another job since. And it's just been like, even through the pandemic, right? Like it was like I went through everybody went through a lot. I can't just say I went through a lot. Everybody went through a lot. But and I think it really revealed a lot of stuff, a lot of junk in the trunk, right? For a lot of people, it was like, it's all revealing at this point. You can't get away from it. And I kind of was like, just before it happened though, I fell pregnant. But I would say like I struggled, having a baby outside of marriage. I struggled with that because that kind of hit my self-worth, because I was like, I am worth being a married woman. I'm worth being a woman who's married and having a baby, right? Like I don't want to just be some baby mama, right? So that really was something I had to work through as well, like when all was said and done. And I would say like, I mean, my career is just like, it's going at this point, right? Like, and I'm very blessed with how, despite even like through the pandemic, like that could have fizzled and like whatever, right? You just don't know. But like, I think it's like God giving me insight into like different things that I could do. And, so I'm just so blessed now to be able to do what I love to do and to really expand at this point, and I'm going to be releasing music soon again. So it's just a really good spot for me because, um, you know, there's always so much more. There's always so much more growth. There's always so much more that you can learn. But at the end of all of this, I will say, like, I would just say I'm on such a good path now. And it's because I've learned my lessons at this point. I'm learning my lessons and I'm really learning to take my time and not rush the process at this point. And that's kind of where I am as of late. I'm like, you know what, like what is for me is not going to go past me. And I can rest assured in that. I'm not going to force anything. I'm going to put my best foot forward and allow God to do the rest, but I'm not going to try and make something happen. You know what I mean? If I'm not going to force it because, yeah, it's just like anything forced is never it's never the best. You know what I mean? It's like these things have to happen organically and authentically. And so I am really, really excited, or I should say energized about my future moving forward, because I just, at this point, all the growth, all the wisdom, everything I've learned up until this point, and just the healthy path that I'm on now, I can look back and just be proud of the girl, that got me to this point. And I think that's what really helped me overcome the missing piece of like the eating disorder or the girl that did drugs or whatever. Was I love that girl. I'm not going to reject that girl because that girl still got me where I am today. And that was it. I think that was it for me in the past, like couple of years, was like learning to embrace the ugly parts of myself, the stuff that was, not pretty, the stuff that, yeah, just is not appealing and is detrimental. Is like, I'm loving her back into wholeness because that's still a piece of me. And if I leave her out on the side, that's still going to be a piece of me that's missing. And so that was the piece of me, I think, that has allowed me into this space where I'm like, now I do feel really free. Now, do I go through daily struggles? Absolutely. Like the rain falls on the just and the unjust, like we are to expect trials and tribulations as long as we're living on planet Earth. We should absolutely expect them, but it's about how we maneuver through them. It's our response to it. And I think I'm just learning. I have the tools now that are helping me to have better responses rather than reactions. And I'm still learning. I still mess up, but I'm definitely growing. And even the times that I mess up is like, okay, there's a little crack there that still needs more healing, right? And I think that's always going to be the case as long as we're living on planet Earth. We're never going to be fully like arrived here on this planet. You know what I mean? There's always going to be something. We're always going to continue to grow if we want to, or like evolve. And I think that's just the spot for me. I just want to I really want to keep growing, evolving, and becoming everything God has created me to be. And yeah, just being a blessing to those around me, and a better friend, a better sister, a better mother, a better wife eventually, so yeah, the goals are not going to stop. It's just going to continue to evolve.
Absolutely. As you said before, there's always space for more growth in all of these different areas because we are multifaceted beings. It's not just growth in the business or growth as a mother. It's also potentially as a wife, a friend, and service to the community, all of these different aspects. And I really liked how you touched on how important it was to love those other parts of you. Because I really feel like that's a pivotal piece in our healing journey, to really be able to go into those shadows, to face those shitty things that we've done, those versions of us that we're not proud of, and have understanding for those pieces and have love. Don't just try to shut them away behind a door, lock it, and throw away the key, because as you said, that's a part of us. We would be leaving that piece of us behind. And where we really come into wholeness and into alignment is when we can meet those pieces and meet them with love. And that doesn't come automatically. It's not just going to be like, oh, I love you, this like terrible version of us. But I really think it's through that understanding, then acceptance, and then love. And that's how we're able to kind of like pull all of these pieces into this version that we are now, while bringing them along with us for the ride. And I so appreciate your journey, all of the ups and downs and all over the place, and bits of chaos and pivotal moments and all of the things. And it feels like throughout all of that, there was this common thread of knowing your purpose, knowing what you love doing, and continuing to strive for that, whether or not you're being paid for it at the time. Sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. And really having those moments of trusting yourself and taking a leap of faith. And sometimes that meant leaving the band, that's not going well, deciding to leave, then being in those awkward situations where you're constantly being reminded of what's happening, people are recognizing you, and deciding to leave all the way to Vancouver. Like, each of those are really huge decisions. And then again, as you carry on and decide to go back home and be at that rock bottom with a suitcase, like scared and alone, and decide to go all in and make a change and completely throw your full self in, doing all of the Bible studies and this and that, while you're still breaking apart because you're not healed, you're not there yet, but you trust yourself, you go all in, and you cry on the way to the job selling the solar panels, and show up, do what's required, do what you need to do, and then cry on your way back and work on the DJ thing. There's so much trust in yourself, even through the ups and downs, and so much perseverance and grit. And I think that is really important as we're becoming these more fuller versions of ourselves, is that we have that perseverance and that trust, and we keep pushing through and we keep doing the thing. And I really see that within you, as you touched on with the DJing. Like, you're right at the beginning, early stages, and you were like selling yourself. I'm this DJ from Canada, like, here I am, and you're not quite there yet. And they see that. And you're still committed. You keep practicing, you get that job, you keep going forward and going forward. And I see it in the way you carry yourself and speak about the decisions you make with being completely clean. Like, if you want to be successful, that's what's required, is to let go of those different addictions and things like that, and dressing the part and holding yourself to a certain set of standards. I really commend you for all of that throughout your journey.
It definitely takes a lot of it takes a lot of discipline. It takes I always, like, when people say, like, actually someone said to me the other day, you always just do what you want to do. And I said, no, that's actually not true. I've laid down my life to pick up my cross so I can actually walk with God, and actually that means dying to some of my fleshly desires, and that it takes discipline, it takes dying to self. And so, no, I actually don't get to do what I want to do a lot of the time, because, like, I don't smoke weed anymore. Do I want to smoke weed sometimes? Absolutely. But I choose to not do it, right? Like, so I'm like, that's like the one thing that I did enjoy. And and I'm just like, I don't do it, and I deliberately don't do it because I know the repercussions of it, and it's just not worth it. And that's really what it gets to, is like, the priorities change, and long term, is this going to be what's best? And I think that is how I see now. It's like I'm looking at long term. I'm looking at like the bigger picture. I'm not just in the right now and feel good. Like we could do a lot of stuff in the moment that feels good, right? But like we're satisfying our soul, but is that really helping our spirit? And I think I'm just wanting to become more spirit led rather than flesh led. And so, yeah, that takes dying to flesh, dying to self. And it's, but, the reward is greater, right? The reward is like, you're not walking in shame. You're not walking in guilt. You're not walking in any of these things. You can walk with your head held high going, I have peace. I have joy. You start gaining the fruits of the spirit, and that is so much greater, so much more rewarding. And yeah, so I just think that's the decision that I've made.
Yeah. And I find once you make that decision and have that awareness, you really see things so much differently. And you're not as motivated for that quick in the moment fix, whatever it is, whether it's smoking weed or eating decision, when you know those greater impacts. It's just not quite as motivating. You might still have that desire, but as you said, you see the long-term game, and that's what's really important. And I bet even if you were to have the puff or whatever it might be, it wouldn't be as satisfying. It wouldn't hit in the same way because you would be facing those repercussions from it, and it would get in the way of where you're wanting to go. Now, I am
Yeah.
curious, thinking back to your journey and how throughout a lot of those trials and tribulations, like inside, there was such that lack of confidence, and people saw this more confident outer shell of you, but it was really masking. I'm curious what that journey was like for you, being able to open up, because you've touched on it when it came to coming to Jesus and all of these women and sharing your story. And I imagine that was quite vulnerable, being at that rock bottom, sharing about all of those things, to now you are fully embodied in who you are, living the life feeling of all of these things and being very authentic in who you are. I don't get that sense that it's that mask. So thinking when you were at the earlier stages and you really had these kind of two different parts of you, the part that was in the depths, really struggling with all of these different things, and that outer part that was very confident and would be faced with judgment, and you would kind of feel it inside, but you would still show up confidently. Now it seems like those two parts have definitely blended, and I'm getting a sense that spirituality, being with Jesus, is a really big part of that. I'm wondering if there is any pivotal moments, perhaps meeting those depths of you, that really helped, or if there's anything else you'd like to share on that.
I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. And I think it is being committed to that journey, right? Like, because you can only bring your natural to God for his super for it to become supernatural, right? Like, you got to bring your part. Like, faith without works is dead. Do you know what I mean? Like, you actually have to do something. Like, you actually have to show up, right? You actually have to put in the work. And honestly, I think it is like by his spirit, like he has led me and continued to lead me. Like he's not left and forsaken me in that. And I honestly think like the more that I could deal with the inner trauma, and also being open with it, like sharing, being vulnerable enough to share my story. That was challenging for me at first because I was so like, what's everyone going to think of me? And like, as soon as I started sharing, I'm like, oh God, like everyone's going to have an opinion of me. What they're going to think? And I like that scared me a little bit of like, is no one going to like me? Is people going to judge me? Is like, I'm not going to get hired, like whatever. Like I'm so beyond that now. Like, and I think that is the freedom that God has given me. Is the more that I have shared, the more that it's broken those chains. And it does, because it's like the transparency allows other people as well to be transparent. So it's actually your pain is for somebody else's gain. Your mess has become your message. And I think that has really, as I've been able to become more open and deal with the stuff and, get past the fear of it, that has naturally rebuilt my confidence, that has naturally stopped me wearing a mask, that has naturally broken all those walls down. So to like kind of uh, conclude the question, it is a series of things, a series of commitments that have led to this place. It hasn't been an overnight process, even though we'd like it to be. We'd like to just click our fingers and be like, wow, like I just woke up like this, right? And it's not. It's like it literally is tried and tested and failed and overcome and broken and succeeded, and not given up, like just choosing to like not give up in the midst of all of that. So yeah, I hope that gives a little bit more clarity.
Yeah, that was great. Throughout all the conversation, it's really that determination, that grit, that having faith and doing what you need to do and moving through the process. And I really like that you brought the awareness piece around the openness and the vulnerability. I think that's a little bit of what I was getting at, is how hard it can be to be seen in our messiness, yet how important it is to be able to share that. And I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but I like how our mess becomes our messages. And the more we share those vulnerable things, those messy things, and we can be so scared of that judgment in the moment, the more we see the impact that has. It helps fuel our healing journey. It helps connect us with others. And then as we move forward, it gets easier and easier. We see these results happening. And then it actually becomes how we're able to help other people by sharing those vulnerable things.
Really have to be able, an acceptance, right? Like, because when I always think like, until you go through it, you don't really fully understand. But because I've been through so much in my life, I really do understand a lot of different things. Like I mean, I've been through a lot that I can really relate to, and also understand where I was and not judge, and I definitely have gone through a place of like judging, for sure. And that is self-righteousness as well. That's like that's forgetting what you went through, and also still not actually being okay with you. That's really where that comes from. And so when again, the piece of like, I'm going to accept myself, as if I can accept me, then it's easier for me to accept you, and also like not take upon somebody else's crap. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's their thing. It's not yours. And like kind of separating yourself, in the sense of like, there shouldn't be any projection. I'm not taking on your projection of, and I got really, I feel like I've really overcome that over the past year, especially, is like projection of what other people thought of me. And I went through a really, really challenging time a year ago where, because of my faith beliefs, I was condemned by the LGBTQ community, because I did a show in the UK that was quite predominantly LGBTQ, and I was attacked, like, and it was just like, I just liked a couple of things online, and it was like, this is who you are, and I was like, no, I love everybody. Like, that's not who I am. Like, and it's like, I have to agree with God. I have to agree with what my father says. Now, I mean, do I understand it all the time? No, like, but it's like, don't shoot the messenger. Don't take it up with me. Take it up with the Lord. Like, this is like, I'm here to love. I'm not here to judge you. And what your lifestyle is that's not my lifestyle. That's not my lifestyle, but I can still love you. I think we just need to get back to a place in um, humanity and in just society where we can agree to disagree and still coexist in the same space.
Yes, please.
And I think, but I learned in that time, like, I was like, I'm not taking on your projection of what you think I am, because that's not who I am. I know my heart. I know my heart towards people. And that is not how I feel about you. Like, I might not agree with everybody's lifestyle and how they choose to live. And like, that's not how I choose to live, but that's my choice. I get to have my choice too. As you get to have your choice, that's not my choice, but this is my choice. Can you respect my choice of how I live? I'm not putting it on you. I'm not telling you you need to change. Like, if that's what you choose to do, that's totally up to you. But for me, like, this is how I'm choosing. And we can still love each other and coexist in the same space. And I think, and again, I was like, I'm not taking on your thought process of making me out to be this person that I'm absolutely not. And I just never took that upon board. And like, that's where I really learned how to like fight in my faith. Like, that's where you really do get tested, because I think like, it's like you're walking with God, and then suddenly like, it's like, okay, here comes a test to see, like, are you going to move to that next level? Are you prepared for what I have for you? Because you're going to have to like show me this by this test that I'm giving you, that you are ready for the next season. And so, I dug my heels in. I fought the good fight of faith in that time, and I forgave and I just let it go. And I didn't take any of that upon me. And so I was able to live free of that, and I just, again, that's not my identity. My identity is in the one who made me. That's who my identity is. It's not in who you think I am or who you portray me to be. It's in who I am in him first. And so because I have that confidence and I have that knowledge and that understanding, then it makes it very, very, it's not easy, but it's easier. It's definitely not easy. It's like, there's points where it's like, you've got to kind of stand in your convictions, right? But at the same time, you can still love through them. Like, you can't fight. I don't think you should ever fight fire with fire. It's like, you have to learn how to, the road map has got to be love, right? Because fear, hatred, none of that stuff is going to build the bridge to winning hearts, winning souls. Do you know what I mean? And so the road the path that will always lead to like repentance is kindness, love, that leads to repentance, which is again like turning away from what we know is not right for our lives, right? So and that's not like, I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. Like, I'm meant to just love my neighbor. I'm meant to love the person that I'm with. Like, that's up to God. God's got to do the changing. That's really the only one that can, in all reality. We can barely change ourselves, let's be real. Like, it's like we try and it's like we go around in like and then we fail again. And it's like, honestly, it's like even today, I'm like, Lord, I need your strength for this child today. Like, I love my daughter. I absolutely like love her with all my heart. But man, she wants to test me at times. She wants to test me every day. And I'm just like, Lord, I just want to thank you just for just the strength today to just, and the wisdom and also the patience, but again, it's like, we were saying you want to click your fingers and be like, wow, it just happened. It's like, as soon as you ask for something, as you pray for something, well, it doesn't just come. It's like, then you get a test to show that you can actually get grow in patience It's not about like, wouldn't it be great? You just wave a wand and like you just you just became this person. But it's like, no, it's the test that helps you to overcome, right? That's the thing.
It really
Mm.
is. And we can ask and pray for all of these different things, and then we're met with the struggles. And that really is the test if we are going to hold our own with what we say we're going to do, if we are going to go all in and dig our heels in and do the things that we said that we were going to do. And I really respect you for how you handled that situation, because there are many people that would have wavered, who would have taken certain things back and let the community sway how they want to show up, because they don't want to be seen in a certain way for fear of how all of those other people are going to think of them. But it really is so important that we hold our own, that we are so clear on our values, on our mission, that even when we get other people's judgments, that we're not going to sway from that, that we are really going to hold true to what we know is right for us. And I'm right there with you. The world needs so much more love, and that we can all agree to disagree. We can all live different and have different beliefs, and that's okay. Just because we believe certain things or live our life in a certain way, and for us wouldn't necessarily do those other things, doesn't mean we need to be angry at these other people or try and force them to think the same way we need to. We can coexist. We can have different beliefs. We don't have to take on other people's beliefs. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. And I think it's such a
We
big
need to
part of really, yeah, I think such
oh
a
no,
big
sorry.
part of embracing.
Yes, yeah. I think just like coming together on common ground, right? That's what we need to come together on, what we agree on, not what we disagree. And I think that's going to be the bridge that's going to help us to unite.
I completely agree. It's meeting from with that common ground, coming from that place of love, having that bridge, and that's how we can connect. And we can have differences, but really connect from that place of common ground. And such an important part of embracing our unapologetic authenticity is being okay with judgment, knowing that we are okay as we are, that we are in alignment with what is true for us. And so, as we wrap things up, I would just love to hear if you had any last advice or thoughts that you would like to share for those near the beginning of their journeys or the middle in learning to really embrace their unapologetic authenticity.
I think just to wrap things up, I would just say, I always kind of say this is like really get to know who you are. Don't be afraid of the struggles and the traumas and the pains, because like so many we all go through them. And I think if we understand like what we're suffering, our whole brotherhood is suffering throughout the whole world, and to understand like we're all going through something. And yeah, just really get to know who you are. I think it's just maneuvering through the fear, and don't be afraid. There's so much fear, but it's like if you can learn to just overcome that with love and always choose the higher road, like even though sometimes it doesn't make sense, it's like, it's like, well, why should I forgive this person that hurt me? And you do, it's not about them, it's about you. And it's about your freedom. It's about you becoming an evolved human being, and that is why we do what we do. That's why we choose the high road. That's why we forgive. That's why we love. That's why, because it's not about us. Because, and how I look at it is like, God forgave me. God forgave me. And so if he forgave me, then I have to learn how to forgive others, because I didn't deserve it either. None of us is deserving. It's a free gift that we get and that we can actually give to somebody else, and that is going to make our world so much better. And I think too, the other thing I just wanted to mention was slightly off topic, but still obviously with what I'm doing. I just wanted to share that I am bringing out music. I believe at the end of this month, beginning of next, we're still trying to finalize a date. But I have 5 records coming out,
Ooh.
kind of back to back, which I'm really, really excited about and energized about. And I'm really looking forward to sharing my story because these songs were very thought through. And when we wrote these, I went to Houston last year, actually, after everything that had happened to me with uh, the gig that I did in the UK with the girls, and then that not working out. And then I went to Houston. I was actually like, my producer who I'm working with now is like, he'd seen my, I suppose, my authenticity and just who I was, and just like how I was so, uh, I stood for something. And he was like, I could really work with somebody like that. I can really trust somebody like that. So he was like, I'd love to work with you. And so I went out to Houston. I wrote these songs with the team, and it was an amazing experience. Like, what probably actually the best experience I've ever had writing with
Oh,
people,
wow.
because like we really sat there. He asked me my story. I shared with him about my life. He was like, we're going to write a song about all the pieces of your life. And so there's 5 songs in there, and it absolutely touches on different parts and my values. And, my uncle, actually, there's a song about my uncle. There's a song called Ballerina, which is like a song for the youth, for the young women especially, and not conforming to society and society's unrealistic expectations and bullying and those kind of things. It's all wrapped up in the song. Because I used to be bullied when I was in ballet growing up when I was a little girl. And so all of that you can hear in the song. It's an amazing song. And I got another song called Kingdom, which is about like building the communities around us with love, and just building kings and queens. It's a beautiful song, festival kind of song. And another couple of like really, really cool songs in there as well. So, and they really touch on my story. And it's like, I'm so excited. Like, I'm just so, moved to be able to share in song my journey. And I've never really done that before. So this is going to be kind of a really great way for my supporters and my fans to really get to know me a little bit more, and also relate, because like everybody has had these kind of experiences, like one, not maybe every person, but because I've been through so much, I'm sure that it can like touch a lot of different people because of those relatabilities, right? So yeah, I always feel like with my what I've gone through is it's been it's what seemed like a curse has been an absolute blessing and a gift. It's really been a gift now, because now I'm on the other side, and I'm um, living a life of freedom in Christ. Like, I'm living that life, and I'm growing in that now, and finding real stability, and um, continuing to just evolve and just shed more and more, and become more light in this, like a light in this world. Um, I just see it as a gift now, as difficult, as painful, as traumatic as everything that I've experienced and gone through. It is absolutely not wasted. None of it is wasted. None of it is wasted. And it can absolutely be used for, you know, for someone else's gain, and to bless somebody else. And really, like I said, it is a gift, because it has made me who I am. And I know that sounds kind of like cliche, but it is true. It's like it's absolutely formed the strength, the resilience, all these different strengths that I have now that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't have gone through it. And so it's never in the good times you develop these kind of characteristics is always in struggle. It's always in the pain. But yet, like once we learn to go through it, grow through it, and when we're on the other side, it's like it feels pretty amazing being on this side now, 'cause especially from the girl who had the eating disorder and the different struggles, the depression, all the stuff that I've gone through. To be on the other side definitely feels like a complete, almost like it's almost like through a looking glass. Like I don't, I don't really know who that I don't recognize that life anymore. But it's like a faint memory. You know what I mean? It's like it's something I can understand that I went through, but it's so not my identity anymore. And like that, that in itself was a complete gift and a blessing.
It's beautiful and taps back into what we shared about those different parts and not fully turning away from them because they are a piece of ourselves. Even though we can become this newer version of ourselves, we can kind of look back and have these memories and have that love and compassion and also really celebrate where we've been able to come to now, going through all of those challenges and those tough times and being able to come out the other end and really being able to live from that place of alignment. And you truly are that light in the world. I really appreciate how your music comes from the heart and comes from that space of light. I think music can have all sorts of different messages and it really brings us into a state of being. And so I've become more and more intentional about the music I especially bring into our home for our kids to listen to and for me to listen to and to be able to come into my mind. And I love that your music has that love and that light and that high vibration that I want to get into when I'm listening to music. So I'd love if you could share where we can find these new songs, when they come out, when are they coming out, where can we find you on Spotify, Instagram, all the things for those that are interested.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I don't have an exact date yet for the release of my first record, but I know there'll be like that it's going to be a weekly release that we're doing. But I believe it's meant to be what my team have told me. It's the end of this month, beginning of next. So we're not too far away. Yeah, we're not too far away. I'm excited. So it will be on all the music platforms. I'm Chloé Morgan Live, one word. Chloé Morgan Live, Spotify, Apple. You'll be able to like upload it on your reels on Instagram, TikTok. It will be everywhere for you to access. And my first record that we're bringing out is called Falling Star. So yeah, it's a very Madonna type feel record. Like we're talking like 80s Madonna. So it's got a really good feel. It's feel good music. It's very, very feel good music. Um, and it's a fun one. It's very like takes you into like a really high vibration of and it's kind of like, I mean, the song is about a romance. So it's definitely, more of a like a feel good in that type of way. And I hope to like I think my hope for it is it will make couples feel good, when they're listening to it. Like or just anybody that wants to fall in love, right? Like I think I want to take people into that space of like, having hope again, that like these relationships can, because I think a lot of people, especially through the pandemic, there were some people that like, ended up meeting people through that time. And then there were some people that were broken up and all kinds of things, right? So I think I just want to inspire people again and, in a very kind of light-hearted way that's not too heavy. You know what I mean? And it definitely, this song is like, it's a really good vibration. So I'm looking forward to it. And then the rest of the music is going to come out again. And I just pray that it's going to give people strength and hope and and relatability, that people are going to be like, I can really relate to this song, right? Like, so, yeah, and get to know me a little bit more, like through my music, like, because it tells the story.
Oh, I'm so
And
excited
I'm on,
for you, for the
yeah,
music.
thank you. I'm on Instagram. My handles are Chloé Morgan Official on Instagram, and everywhere else I'm Chloé Morgan Live.
Wonderful. And we will have all of that linked in the show notes. I will try and follow along to your releases and share those in my Instagram as well to help get the word out. Because as I said, I really appreciate your music and the energy you bring into it and put out into the world. And I'm excited to hear the songs too. So thank you so much. We'll have that included. Is there anything else you would like to share before we sign off?
Not that I can really think of. I mean, I think, I just hope that everybody has a beautiful week ahead, and just to stay in tune, and I mean, I think we've discussed so much at this point that I think it gives people a lot to sort of digest. So my prayer is just that people would be awakened from this podcast, that people would feel moved in a way that they could be transparent, that people could be honest and open and unafraid, and really step into fearlessness in their lives too. So I pray that it gives people the confidence, that what has been rebuilt in me, that a piece of that could be passed to the viewers and the audience.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I think that's such a key from the stories you shared and all of this conversation, is that no matter where you are in your journey, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is so much love and joy and all of these different ways that you're able to serve from what you have gone through. So thank you so much for being with me today and with our listeners. Thank you for those that have tuned in. I really appreciate it, and just wishing everyone a lovely rest of their day. Thank you for joining us inside the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you feel called, I would so appreciate it if you shared about this episode in your stories or left us a review to help us reach more women in their unapologetic authenticity journey. Until next time, trust your inner wisdom and make some magic.